As you know, historically, We Are NC Gov have been always held in this building, and we always partner with Department of Environmental Quality to present the best services that we have. And today, I'm introducing Billy Hylton, who will tell you about the application which is built in the Department of Environmental Quality with the same with the same approach as the Digital Commons platform always done, user in mind.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Elena. This has been an awesome event. I am delighted to be here and to be a part of this and to be working on permitting transformation at DEQ. Before I start, we're going to have a little, so I'm going to go through some slides, I'll have a talk. I'm super excited that Elizabeth, the developer on one of our permitting solutions, is in the house, she's in town. We are going to move after this talk to the back training room for a demo of one of the solutions that she's built. So I'll show some screenshots and talk a little bit about the program and permitting at DEQ and how we're transforming permitting processes. But I encourage you to stick around. Don't leave. Go to the back, and we'll take a look at the actual finished product of one of our solutions. So briefly, and I'm going to try to scoot a little bit over here. Forgive my copy and paste from my LinkedIn bio here, but I'm Billy Hylton. I'm an IT manager for DIT at DEQ, reporting to Mike Ware. So I'm providing technical leadership on the permitting transformation program. I'm going to be calling that PTP. We also market that as Access DEQ. I've worked in higher ed, the private sector, and state government, and did work with digital solutions prior to this role at DEQ. So it's such an honor to be here with Mac and Marla and Elena, and that crew is really doing some awesome work, as you just saw. At the end of the day, I think I love making government easier for citizens and businesses and our constituents. That's kind of my why, and just the idea that we get to really make an impact and how our constituents engage with us is really exciting. Quick show of hands. How many of you in the audience are familiar with permitting at DEQ, or maybe more specifically the permitting transformation program? A few, maybe not as many as I expected. That's great. I'm going to set the stage a little bit. So in its mission to provide environmental stewardship for the state of North Carolina, DEQ administers permits for regulated entities. And that's in the areas of water, air, ground. With the project, we're spanning 5 regulatory divisions: air quality, coastal management, DMLR, which is our energy, mineral, and land resources division, waste management, and water. And so from a PTP, or transformation project standpoint, we are looking at 150 types of permits. To clarify that a little bit, that would include licenses, certificates, agreements, things like that. And those really vary in terms of their complexity and the processes involved. The last I saw, back 2021, we had about 39,000 permits issued that year, just under 40,000. So it's a lot. In terms of challenges with permitting, it's a familiar story to many of us in state government, I think, where we all often talk about silos and different processes, technologies, systems, cultural ways of working across different divisions and programs. And this is common, of course, across many agencies. And I think, to me at least, in DEQ, that's probably one of the main ones right there. So if we have a kind of a lack of a unified set of processes and standards for our permits in these different programs and divisions, kind of a disconnected set of data systems. So if you're on the staff side in DEQ, you might be in one division and use one data and technology system. If you move to another, you might use a different one. This creates kind of a situation where we at times have a lack of kind of holistic and reliable enterprise data, and that can make it hard to answer reporting questions, business questions such as how many permits did DEQ or a specific division issue on a particular year or in a certain area of the state. We can answer them, it's very difficult, and so that's one of our challenges. I think over on the other side, can't really see with the glare, but payment is another area where the user experience going from moving into the permitting process and working on an application for a permit all the way through to that invoice and payment, it's a little disjointed. It's not as seamless as we would like it to be. And at the end of the day, it makes it sort of hard to be agile, lowercase a agile, to the changing needs of the business and of our users. So if I had to really boil this down, I would say, in my opinion, the number one challenge for DEQ from a permitting transformation perspective is that classic PPT thing, the people, processes, and technology, and fostering a culture within this agency that pulls all those things together so that we can work as efficiently and effectively as possible. The current experience, and I'm going to talk a little bit about users. I know not everyone likes that name, MikeWare, but I'm going to talk about users in the terms of end users who might go to the website and portal we're building for this program, and then also DEQ staff, because we have challenges a little bit on both sides, and that's really, as you can see, I think from some of these just screenshots here, some of the challenges are consistent for both sets, end users and staff. So Elena talked a lot about branding consistency and that visual design layer, and we see a kind of disjointed set of experiences depending on which program or division or permit we're working with, whether that's on the front end or the back end. So goals. So we'll talk about really three major goals for PTP, for Access DEQ. Number one, of course, is just streamlining the permitting process, and that's ensuring a consistent and transparent process across the agency, across the divisions that are part of this program. There's always going to be some custom scenarios, but we want to standardize as much as we can. We are reimagining and modernizing the permitting system itself, the product, the solution. We'll dive into this in a little bit more later. It's essentially a portal front end and a whole back end solution for our staff, and then creating publicly accessible data and having a new approach to enterprise data and data dashboards for internal staff and external users. So if I kind of start with those three goals and then zoom in, there are, 6 elements here I would call your attention to for PTP. Number one is enterprise data, and that's thinking a little bit about common data elements and that sort of thing. A modern technology stack, both on the back end and the front end. So we have to get into a little bit of the tech here. Simplified payments, we're going to move from the current electronic payment system to Pay It, which is used for MyNC-DMV, if you're familiar with that. And then, what do we have? Process improvement. We were really grateful to have the DIT process engineers come work on the project, particularly earlier, to map the existing business processes and to help us reimagine and revamp the processes for the future. User experience, of course, and then doing all this in a manner that's transparent and where we're communicating well with stakeholders internally and externally. So our status, we've received funds from the legislature, which has enabled us to hire developers, data architects, project managers, business analysts, and others. The DEQ leadership has created a prioritized schedule of permits and processes that we want to move towards. So the DEQ people in the room will be familiar with words like brownfields and underground storage tanks and mining and post-construction stormwater and erosion and sediment control. These are programs that are going through this transformation. We've launched coastal management, a permit for that division, and really stoked that we just launched erosion and sediment control in this new solution. It's a soft launch, but not now that I've announced it, I guess. But we'll get into the wider marketing of that here in a few weeks. And then other programs are moving through. I think we have maybe 12 or 14 programs that are moving through this transformation journey. Many of those are already going through user acceptance testing and heading toward the finish line. So I won't get into the weeds with tech and data, but I do need to touch on a little bit of this. So at the heart of particularly the back-end solution, and again, a little side note, again, Elizabeth will be doing a demo of this later, so stick around. We're using the Microsoft Power Platform, particularly Dynamic CRM. They're always rebranding these products. I think it's Dynamic CRM is the latest name, as well as other Power Platform solutions such as Power BI and Power Automate. But PTP, from a technology standpoint, is also a story of integrations and APIs. I mentioned Pay It. So I love this product. If you use it from INCDMV, you know it's built for modern digital experiences and mobile. We're integrating with that. We're integrating with an EPA platform. There's some complexity with DEQ, with the policies, of course, that we need to adhere to. One is called Cromir, and there's a platform that we leverage in APIs to make sure we're compliant there. We have ArcGIS, we have some monitoring data systems and historical data systems as well that we are integrating with. So if I had to pick a slide that's maybe one of the most important or one aspect, it'd be just around data. And I wish I had our data architect here to just like swoop in for a minute, because he can really bring this to life in a way I probably can't. But a couple big important concepts. One is we have a common data model, and that includes looking at data tables or entities and standardizing those as much as we can, so that across these different permitting solutions that we're building, we're going to have a lot more consistency on the back end for DEQ staff that are administering these permits, and that also makes it possible to do that enterprise reporting, back to answering some of those big business questions. It's very difficult to do that without some commonality. We have a data warehouse, and for the tech folks, that's in the DIT Azure tenant. This will enable us to aggregate data from across these divisions and have a single source of truth. We like to say no data left behind as we're doing some of these rollouts. Analysis services, which just helps us optimize this data for the presentation layer for particularly Power BI. So I'm going to move into UX, user experience. We've talked a little bit about DEQ and permitting, some of the challenges, the technology and data side, and this is probably one of my favorite areas about the transformative piece of the project. And so, let's see. So the portal backend, there's a portal and a backend. So two big pillars to the PTP solution. If you can see on the left side of my screen, that is the front end, the web portal. It's a new website. It's on a technology called Sitefinity. Couldn't quite integrate with the digital commons platform. However, thanks to this team, we were able to port over the theme, and I'll show that in just a moment. And that really saved us a lot of time and gives us some advantages from an accessibility standpoint. You see on the right side of the screen, that is the Dynamics backend. So essentially, the data is flowing through from end users to the front and going into the backend solution there in the back. This is our permit directory. Thinking about user experience again, we wanted to make it really easy to search and find the right permits for our end users and to filter. It's using something called a Kendo grid, and there's some thought put into the design of this to make it fast and easy to filter and to really zero in on exactly what our users are looking for. So we're thinking about making the user experience intuitive and I don't know if I'd say consumer, like consumer applications per se, but we want to have a design direction and functionality that's similar to the kinds of products and services that many of us are using every day. So we have an experience when you log into the portal, you're going to see a profile. You're going to see my applications, invoices, permits, that kind of thing. So permits even across these different divisions. And it's a complex area that we're working on simplifying and making it as intuitive as we can for our users. We're all familiar with a pizza tracker, right? I mean, even just without looking at the screen, you think pizza tracker. I want to say this was the idea from the former secretary here at DEQ, who's now at the EPA. We have created a simplified way to check the status on the front end, so our users can sign in and just go and see wherever their permit is in the process in a very standardized way. So I think this one here is completeness review. Now on the back end, we have a track. Essentially the staff will have more granular statuses, so we want to ensure that no matter what the status is on the front end, that our staff can zero in on exactly the right know exactly what the situation is on the front end. So I mentioned the Digital Commons theme. So we were able to take the look and feel, the template, the theme, and migrate that over to the portal that we've created. And so there's a lot of benefits to that. I was going to touch on accessibility. I think we've covered that very well, but that's one just out of the box by using this theme. Now there's still work obviously on our side, on the technology and communication side, to make sure what we're building is as accessible as it can be, but there was so much benefits out of the gate to using this. Also, we have components and functionality in here that, because it's built on this theme, if we need a new banner, for example, I talked to my portal developer, Mahesh, and I needed to add an alert at the top of the screen. We were able to do that in just a couple of hours and do that in a manner that was very consistent with the DEQ website and many others. So big deal to us because it just saved time from a development perspective. We've got a lot of these programs moving through the journey, but also from that end user experience standpoint, it's not going to look totally different. You know, the branding, the palette, accessibility considerations were baked right in. So if everyone would look out your window and you see a building, or most of you will see a building right there that says Pindo. Jim, I told you I would do this. There's a Raleigh-based company called Pindo, and we're taking advantage of one of their technologies for tooltips. And I mentioned, I think earlier was Chromier, and that is this EPA rule that some of our programs need to follow, and it's really complex. It's really hard to understand. We are working on solutions that have a lot of complexity in the content and the policy side, and it's tough to sort of distill that down into a simplified, intuitive experience. And we're trying to be pragmatic too. So one of the things we've done is leverage this tooltip system from Pindo, where we can easily embed that and add contextual information about some of that account functionality or the language such as Chromier. And it gives us some analytics data too, just to sort of see like what's working and what's not, where are people getting stuck. Many of our DEQ inspectors are out in the field when they're doing inspections. And so we had a requirement to ensure that the solution was optimized for mobile. It was mobile first. That's great when you've got a Wi-Fi connection and cell service. We also know that some of our inspectors who are in the field may not have those things. So they may need to take a photo, for example, and upload that. And we've got a native app capability. No iOS developers on the team or anything like that, but by going through this, the approach we're taking with data and using the Microsoft Power Platform and structuring the technology and architect in a certain way, we're able to pretty easily integrate into their native app wrapper. So this, I simply just downloaded this from the App Store on Google Play as well, authenticated in with the same credentials our staff would for the mobile website, and we have a native app wrapper that works pretty well. I mentioned Pay It. So show of hands, how many of you have used the MyNC DMV or Pay It before? A good number of you. Great. So we're leveraging the exact same technology for the PTP solution, and we've kind of mapped that experience from the app when folks are entering applications all the way through to getting that invoice to making payments. In a minute here, after you watch me enter a test credit card number on the screen, note to self, do that, complete that process before you put it in a slide. But you'll see this redirect back to the payment, the receipt. So from entering the data all the way to payments, we've kind of tried to create a really seamless experience, thinking about just that, the interactions and the visual layer and the branding and that kind of thing. And you even get an email sent to you as well. So it sort of closes that loop. I'm going to touch on process for a minute. I think I mentioned we started with process engineers from DIT who came and worked with our programs and our PTP team and our staff to map the current business processes and then work on a revamped and redesigned standardized process for the future. That's flowed into the requirement side, into development, and then into testing and launch. Pretty linear. During Jennifer's talk and others, we've touched on Agile and MVPs and things like that. We are reimagining and almost looking at our process for PTP as we speak. How can we be more iterative and take more of a product approach and release functionality and parts to the solutions for a program sooner and get that user feedback, incorporate that in, and then move on. I don't know that we'll ever go to a full capital A Agile approach. Secretary Weaver taught, I think the word was Wagile. So we'll probably have a little bit of a combination of those, but we're already seeing some benefits with getting products out a little bit more quickly. So lessons learned. This has, I think, come up a couple of times today. Goodness, it's just not all about the IT and the technology. I love this visual metaphor here where you see leadership and culture and processes, and there's so much that goes into this transformation story and the journey from taking these programs from current state to future state. And it's really about pulling those things together and creating a culture that allows us to do this in the most effective way for our users. So the former Tom Loosemore, the head of the UK digital service, which I think is, Jennifer, I see you nodding your head. I think that's the equivalent of the US digital service in the UK. This is a little bit old, and I can't fully read it here. But I liked how he defined digital because it's applying the culture, the practices, and the processes, and the technologies of the internet era to meet people's raised expectations. So it's a great way that, at least from a mindset perspective, for me to really think about, like, there's a reason technology's at the end of that list. Obviously, it's important, but there are some other things as well. This is a Harvard Business Review quote I pulled out that I really like. The true transformation demands more than just new technologies. Any effective digital business leader will tell you that introducing new technology is the easier part. It's the cultural and the process changes that can thwart that transformation progress. One of our lessons learned, or learning, Jim, nodding your head, is really trying to enable small teams as much as we can. So for our different programs going through this permitting process to building the fundamental core parts of the solution, or our really important SMEs that are out there in the business or in IT, we're finding that the more we can empower and give decision-making power to small groups, we're able to get things done more quickly and more effectively and really get things out more quickly to get that feedback. I do think there's a design by committee challenge in DEQ and probably other state government agencies as well. It's common, and coming from higher ed years ago, there was often that need, of course, to have consensus, and you want to have all the important voices at the table. So this is not about eliminating those voices, but maybe we can have smaller meetings, smaller teams, and then bring those voices in as needed. And then I think that can be an effective way to move things along. We want to meet the needs of the agency and end users. I feel like this is kind of a note we've heard over and over and over again today. So I think that should be probably pretty clear by now. That means listening to our citizens, businesses, other constituents, and consultants, not just getting the input in a feedback form, perhaps, but doing that work to roll up our sleeves and sit down with folks and to get some prototypes in front of our friendly constituents that may have used these programs and gone through the permitting process with some of these programs in the past, to get their feedback and to incorporate that. That's the quantitative side and that qualitative side to really get at those user experience wins that we want. So I'll close with just one final slide. I think just summarizes this and again just touches on so much of what we heard today, but we want to strive for continuous improvement instead of perfection. Think incrementally, iteratively, that product mindset, and I think that's a particularly important goal for us, an opportunity in DEQ for the permitting program. Go off script here for a minute. I'm so stoked to be a part of this program and to contribute to permitting transformation at DEQ and the state. I think transformation is a word that can get thrown around quite a bit. What DEQ is doing, and Secretary Beiser and Secretary Weaver, is transformative from the data all the way up to the application layer, and it's touching everything from people to culture, and I think we're going to be successful because of all those elements and ingredients coming together in just the right way. So thank you, everyone. Again, Elizabeth will be doing a demo. I don't see her in here. She's probably already back getting set up. If you want to see this stuff come to life, go back here to the training room and check out a demo. Thank you all.